Hey everyone, Austin here again with a quick play. Today we'll be playing through Ranger X for the Sega Genesis or Megadrive. This is a game I actually did own in the late 90s when I was getting into console game collecting. However, I never really played more than, I don't know, half of the first stage. I always gave up. The controls were confusing, it didn't really click with me. The frame rate also wasn't perfect either. This game runs at about 30 FPS if not lower, and it does actually chop up even further. So I always just put it off. I never bothered to really dive into it and give it like a, the honest, the honest go. And however, I bought a analog DAC for my Mega SG and Super NT and an upcoming Duo, and in testing that out, I ended up firing up this game, and I got hooked on it. I finished it after a couple of attempts, and I have since gone back and finished it probably about 7 times now. So having done that, it's like, well, might as well do a quick play of it, since I'm actually half decent at the game now. So yeah, what we're gonna do is go through the whole game on the default normal difficulty. The American version here, I believe, does have an easy mode. The Japanese version apparently does not, without a cheat code. So, for anyone that wants a slightly easier experience, I might recommend playing the American version. But yeah, there are actually a couple of higher difficulties. I haven't actually tried those yet, but I plan on it. If anyone has any experience with those higher difficulties, anyone that's a real expert at this game, post some feedback down in the comments below. I'm really curious how those stack up to the default difficulty mode. So what I'm going to do is try to explain things the best I can. The thing about Ranger X is that the controls are a little confusing at first. It takes a little while to get used to, but once you get used to them, this game just plays really, really well. I also highly, highly recommend a 6-button controller for this game. If you only have a 3-button controller, the game is a lot more difficult to control. So make sure you're playing this with the 6-button if you decide to give it a try after watching this. And yeah, I'll do my best to sort of explain all like the little nuances and mechanics and all the little tricks in each level. Each level has, well, not really each level, but some levels have specific little gimmicks that you really need to know about, otherwise you're going to die and get yourself a game over. Now, you don't technically get lives in this game like the traditional sense. It's basically you just get continues. So you can actually earn more continues though every 100,000 points. So over the course of the game, you'll earn yourself more continues. When you die, you get a game over. When you continue, you actually just pop right back in where you left off, which is nice. So hopefully we get no game overs on this playthrough. Hopefully we actually get through this without dying. And I've done that very consistently now. However, if you're if you play very dangerously and risky in this game, you can take damage really, really fast. There are basically like no invincibility frames in this game. So if there's tons of projectiles coming your way, all those projectiles are going to register damage. So you definitely need to play a little safe in this game if you want to have the best chance of getting through without getting a game over. So alright, let's go ahead and hit that start button. I'm not going to bother with the options menu. It's pretty basic stuff like sound tests and difficulty and whatnot. Every level does have a slight introduction like this though. I'll let this first one play out, but we're going to go ahead and skip the rest of them because it's all basically the same kind of thing. You have a wire form basically preview of your level, apparently, and pretty interesting stuff. You didn't see a lot of this type of visual styling on the Genesis and Megadrive, and that is one really cool thing about this game, which kind of makes me wish I actually beat this back in the day, is visually it's actually very impressive, especially for 1993. I mean, this is like up there with Thunder Force 4 and whatnot, or Lightning Force. It's a very nice looking game. However, like I mentioned in the beginning, the frame rate is not perfect, unfortunately. That's the only downside in my opinion. Alright, so basically what we do is we've got our Ranger X here. You can shoot right with the C button, and you can turn left with the A button. And you can press up to fly around. And you have this temperature meter in the bottom right hand corner of the screen. When the temperature goes all the way up, Ranger X is forced to drop back down to the floor, and the temperature meter just resets once you hit the floor. Also, you've got this thing right here called the EX up, and you can actually dock it or get into it and control it manually with the D-pad. Again, you hold C to fire, and what's really cool about this is that it actually has a homing attack, so enemies that are airborne, it'll automatically target for you, which is actually very nice. Now, I want to try to explain a lot of stuff before we actually move on here. So you can actually get out of the EX by pressing up. However, when you're in the EX, you actually can switch weapons by pressing B or Y. So I've got a flamethrower right here, and I can activate it by pressing B or Y when I'm in Ranger X form. And if I switch over to the other one, this bomb that goes across the screen. I really like this weapon because it travels across the ground until it hits something, or it runs out like we just saw it do. And yeah, we can just destroy things quite easily with our special weapons there. The flamethrower is also kind of interesting because it has a tendency of... flame-based weapons or fire-based weapons in this game have a tendency of overriding enemy projectiles, which is actually really cool. So, another reason why you want the 6-button controller is the EX vehicle down here. You can actually control manually with X and then Z. So Z makes it go right, X makes it go left. And one thing I like to do on this first level is push it all the way right and just hold down the fire button with the C button. I don't even worry about my sub-weapon. I just let the EX vehicle just kind of do the groundwork for me. So... every level has a specific objective you have to meet. This first level, we have to destroy all these attack stations right here. You can see that they're actually trying to attack into the background. That's sort of like a story element. I'm not going to really go into the story here. You can sort of read about it in the instruction manual if you want. But every goal, or every level has a goal. And again, on this level, it's to destroy all these attack stations. And there's like a little radar in the top portion of the screen, which tells you where these things are. Now, every level is pretty straightforward in this game. You don't really have to do too much exploration and stuff like that. So, you know, mission-oriented things for me are usually not my cup of tea. But this game incorporates them in a very arcadey kind of way, so you don't really have to use your brain all that much. But again, just forcing my EX vehicle to the right. Now these things right here are power conversion stations. So if you look on the bottom right hand portion of the screen, there's a power bar. If I hold down my special weapon, it drains the power bar. Now, certain levels have different ways to charge the power back up. On this level, it just automatically charges on its own. Other levels, you have to actually... There are gimmicks I'll explain as we progress through the game. However, with these power conversion stations, if I touch them, it'll convert my bottom right power to bottom left energy. My health bar, basically. Pretty interesting stuff. So it actually kind of makes you, on certain levels, it really makes you think, do I want to use my special weapon right now? Because I know there's a power conversion coming up. Maybe I want to save my power to get health back. Also, your EX up here actually has its own separate health bar. So that's another strategy on some levels, is to use this thing. You can see I'm going to take just a bunch of damage here intentionally. Just like that, and now I can get out. And now my health bar with Ranger X is different. It's a separate health bar completely, which is actually quite nice. Now, you have to be really careful. If you die inside your EX form, you will actually get a game over. So, if any health bar gets depleted completely, it's game over. You have to continue. So, you need to be careful about that. However, what's really interesting about the EX is that it doesn't actually take damage when you're outside of it. So you can just use it as an offensive weapon. You can never die by your EX taking too much damage when you're outside of it. It's only when you're inside of it, you're docked in it and controlling it, when both your forces are combined, basically, is when it will start taking its own damage. When there are major screen transitions like this, like going to boss fights and stuff like that, you always get your health back, which is nice. So you never start at a boss fight, like, disadvantaged, at least on this default difficulty. I'm not sure what it's like on the higher difficulties. But here we are. This is our first boss fight. I recommend just being inside your EX vehicle for this, because of its homing properties. I feel like this boss is meant to train you on its homing properties with its main rapid shot here. You can also tell you're doing damage to certain parts because they'll start like jiggling back and forth and start making kind of a weird high-pitched sort of sound. Also, the boss has a health bar in the top right, so you can also tell you're doing damage by that. And that's it, that's the first boss. So you just stay inside your EX vehicle, let the homing attack just do its thing. You're gonna tank some hits, but you're not gonna take enough to where you die, you know, right away. So... Alright, huge gimmick on this level. If you fly to the ceiling, you'll notice that there's these objects here. You can actually bust them open. And let's actually get in our vehicle here so I can demonstrate this. Let's switch back over to our flamethrower. Waste some energy. Now these beams of light, this is actually an energy resource in this cave level. So when you get underneath it, it starts charging back up relatively quickly. If we get out of it, it starts not charging up very quickly. So let's go ahead and let that charge back up. We're going to be doing a lot of this over the course of this level. And what's really funny about some mechanics like this in this game is you don't realize they're doing that until several playthroughs in. I didn't actually figure this out until my last playthrough of this game. And there are some details on a later level in the game that I also figured out on my last playthrough. So, you know, this is a fairly nuanced game for what it is. It's actually quite interesting. I'm really glad I fired up this game because there's a lot of details to it. You're going to be constantly learning stuff as you play, and discovering new things as you continue to play. So we're going to fly up here, and actually what I want to do is come back into my, I want to dock with this thing. This is the only way you can switch special weapons. You have to be in the ship to switch special weapons. It's a little obtuse, but you get used to it eventually, and you start planning things out. But basically, I want my little bomb here, and I'm going to drop it on top of this guy so I don't take too much damage. There we go. And it always busts its turret off like that, and shoots projectiles around. Now this right here is another weapon. This is actually sort of a tracking, sort of lock-on laser. Very useful weapon we're going to be using for the majority of the rest of the, well, I guess a lot of this playthrough, but this level in particular. So let's go ahead and switch over to it. And let's actually go back and get some energy back. Now another way to get energy back, or I should say weapon power, is by destroying enemies with just your standard shot. Every enemy you destroy with your standard shot will also regenerate power. And that's actually how I got through a lot of these levels when I first was learning this game, is I was just, you know, making sure I was killing enemies with just this base weapon, and that's how I regained my energy, before realizing that the light actually regenerates it too. So utilize our homing projectile here, get rid of that turret, and what I'm going to do is actually use our newly found sort of tracking laser here. And I'm going to go ahead and get on this and just destroy these rocks. Now these rocks, they do actually hurt you if you run into them, or if they land on top of you at least, and they take a lot of hits to destroy, but these rocks have different properties over the course of this level. It's one of the core gimmicks in this stage. Later on, these things will explode with these flying insect type things. They do a lot of damage and take a lot of hits, but there are ways to destroy them easily. And then there are other rocks that will sort of try to go wherever you are in the screen. It's a little weird, and I'll sort of point that out once we get to those parts. Now these stations right here are our main objectives. We have to destroy all these stations. And now if you don't want these lasers to actually lock on the enemies, just lightly tap the button on and off, your special button on and off. Now by sitting in this light, again, we can actually get our weapon power back pretty easily. Also, this light is strong enough to repel these insects right here, or these flying bugs, whatever you want to call them. They do a lot of damage really fast, and they take a lot of hits. And so you want to use the light to your advantage to block them from coming towards you. But we're going to go ahead and use our laser right here. We have to destroy these little power stations too. Basically what they do is provide power to various turrets and enemies and things like that in this level. And by destroying them, you make your life a lot easier. So a couple of ways you can handle this section right here. You'll notice that rock on the top just went towards me. We can actually destroy, you know, these rocks above, and the rocks will fall down, and then we can move to one side of the screen or the other, and then they'll go across the screen and hurt those turrets. See, there we go. Let's see if we can get it to come back. Boom, there's one. It's a really weird mechanic. It's like these rocks have a mind of their own, but you can, you know, you can take it, use them to your advantage, basically. And I don't really care about that rock. What I care about is these power stations right here. And as you can see, my blue laser will actually lock onto them, which is very helpful. Alright, we're going to come back over here to our little power source and go ahead and recharge our energy. And if I really wanted to play it safe, one of the nice things about this game is you're not timed. And so you can actually go back back and forth through the level at your leisure. And what I can do is actually come back up here and convert some of this energy. Oops. Wrong corridor. Let's go back up this way. And we can convert it back to health. Just to play it safe. You do take rapid damage pretty quickly in this game, so you've got to be really, really careful. And it's very useful to take advantage of situations like that, where, say, you've got a full power meter, and you want to just convert it over to hit points. Now, this green slime stuff, you don't want to touch it with your ranger, otherwise you will end up taking some rapid damage as well. A lot of little robots here, and I want to definitely use my my laser projectile on them. I could probably use my ground bomb as well. Also, we got some more power sources up here. And I can actually move my EX over to the right. Alright, let's just sit in this light, let these insects kill themselves, basically. They're not even really insects, but they are flying little creatures, whatever they are. They're unique to this game. Yeah, one thing I really like about this game is that it's an action game at heart, but there are a lot of little nuances and stuff like that that just kind of make it special. You know, like all these little flying bugs and whatnot. Like, they'll wreck you the first time you play, but then you realize, like, oh, you can sort of control what happens with them. Just bait them towards the light, and then that's it. I also did want to mention that some levels in this game are, I'd say, a lot longer than others. This is one of the longest stages in the game, so a lot of the levels that come after this are considerably shorter. This level has a lot more gimmicks than your typical stage. For instance, after this, we're going to go to a boss fight, and the boss fight is super straightforward. There's no major crazy gimmick or anything like that. It's just a good little action fight. Alright, got it. We just need one more of those guys. Let's go ahead and charge up our energy. Now, the last one of those guys that we have to destroy is actually way more aggressive than any of the other ones have been. So you have to be really careful on that, otherwise you'll die very, very quickly. Another power source right here. Now, we don't want to fall down below when we destroy it because it is dangerous. As you can see, if we drop in there, we will die. Not die. Not right away, but we will take a lot of damage if we touch it, so we don't want to touch it. And I don't believe there are any power sources here, so if I run out of weapon energy, what I want to do is actually just fly back to an earlier part of the level. And it's definitely best to get rid of all these little robot dudes. The big reason is they take a lot of hits, they get in your way, and then they make it to where it's really hard to actually destroy, not really the boss, but, you know, the last of our goals or our objectives. Go ahead and just let this charge up. Now, I don't need, like, you know, max weapon energy to get past this part, but really, I want max weapon energy so I can get through these little smaller robots a lot easier, because again, they do take a lot of hits. And again, if your temperature goes too high, you're going to fall back down to the ground. That's exactly what happened there. So you've got to watch out for your temperature meter as well. You can see how these guys just end up stacking on top of each other, and they can be a little overwhelming. And they will follow you all the way over to the right, so you want to just go ahead and get rid of them. It's probably going to be one or two more. Yep. And then our main objective right here. We want to move back as these rocks come flying up, because some of them turn into these fireballs. And the fireballs are what does damage to you. The rocks themselves don't do damage, but they will actually get in the way of your projectiles, so they will block some of your shots. Now, unfortunately, I don't have the help of my my EX up right here. There we go, we got it. And it's funny, there's actually like an exit, but you don't actually exit. The screen just transitions no matter where you are after you destroy your last objective. Alright, so our boss right here, what I like to do is just get in my EX up, and then just use the homing projectile on our objectives, which is these little flying ships right here. With your homing shot, it's actually a really rapid shot too. You'll kill these guys before they can even fire at you if you do it right. They do shoot these lasers straight ahead, which are actually pretty tough to avoid if you're actually docked in your EX. And also, you don't want to move too far to the right, otherwise you'll trigger multiples at once. We just want to take care of one at a time. This next one's going to bust through this wall. Right there. Really great graphics on this level in particular. Some really nice graphical trickery. This game is definitely a looker, despite the lower frame rate compared to something like Thunder Force 4. It's a great looking game. I'd say it's one of the better looking games on the console. Ooh, boss time. I didn't realize that was our last one. So this guy has multiple phases, and that is phase 2. He's throwing some bombs out now. We have to just shoot him in the red spot, and phase 3 is he shoots out this laser. So you have to sort of fly into the air, land back on the ground and shoot, and rinse and repeat. Don't touch the lasers. The lasers will do a lot of damage. You'll sort of get caught up in them. And then phase 4, he just flies across the screen like that. I could have sworn there was supposed to be boss music here, but I'm not hearing it. That's okay. Alright, like I said, fairly straightforward. So that previous level was like pretty complicated, but that sort of boss rush was not. So, alright, new gimmicks here on this level. We're gonna actually fly down here to the ground, and we're gonna stay on the ground, and ideally I want to use my laser here and just tap the button lightly. The reason is, you'll notice that if you look really closely, there are apples in the trees. Those are actually health refills. It's the only part of the game where you can eat some apples to get your health back. So if you shoot the apples and they fall down, they'll land on the ground. You will not be able to get your health back. So I want to conserve those. And this thing right here is my Falcon power-up. This is a really good weapon we're going to be using over the next couple of stages. But for this level, I like to just use my little tracking laser here. Also, our objectives are these sort of turrets that spawn these flying enemies. And the first couple actually fall from the sky. And so you need to actually make sure you get rid of them before you start pushing forward too quickly. Also, the way you recharge weapon energy on this level is by sitting on top of or docking your EX. This is technically called, I think, an EX courier. It's a courier ship, and it doesn't actually do a whole lot except recharge your energy here, and it also shoots lasers down towards the ground and actually targets enemies for you. That'll actually come in really handy on a later level in the game, where it's also in play. But basically what I'm going to do is I'm just going to keep pushing right, and when my health gets low, I'll try to eat an apple, which regains a good chunk of it, actually. You have to actually get up on top of the apple and shoot it, and then your Ranger X will just consume it. Must be some pretty big apples, actually, because Ranger X here is actually, he's probably about 15 times the size of a human. You'll actually see human-sized doors throughout the course of the playthrough in the backgrounds to give you, like, an idea of, like, the scope and size of our character here. Right, so I need 2 more of these things after this one. And I could actually redock my ship, which might not be a bad idea, and try to get some weapon energy back, but it actually looks like it's kind of lagging behind quite a bit. Oh yeah, it's way behind. It's really slow. So you don't want to really depend on it unless you're taking your time. Alright, let's go ahead and get back out. And here's an apple. Let's go ahead and eat it. Got it. And there should be another one up here, I believe. I must have knocked it down already. That's fine. Actually, there's a couple up top. Alright, got it. And here's another one. Got it. Kind of an interesting mechanic. I didn't figure that out until a few runs in. I was randomly getting my health back. I was like, I'm gonna die, I'm gonna die, I'm gonna die. Wait, I just got some health back. I don't know why. And it's because of the apples up top. I didn't catch on to that until several runs in. So a lot of little details in this game that you're not gonna pick up on right away, but they're extremely useful. Alright, this is a boss fight. Pretty simple boss fight, but what I want to do is actually use my ground bomb. I think it's actually in the instruction manual, it's called a mine. But what I want to do is drop it on the ground and then shoot him as the fire hits it. When you shoot this guy in the eye, it immediately closes it. So what you want to do is hit it first with the stronger shot, and then try to hit it at the same time with your regular shot. You'll do maximum damage. Now it's got these tentacles that sort of shoot out at you, and they're sort of randomized. I found that they're not all that threatening. And then a little over the halfway point, it goes underwater. And for this part, I'm going to go ahead and switch weapons back to my tracking laser. And there we go. We want to shoot the little brain-looking thing. Really curious what this boss is like on the higher difficulties. But on this default normal difficulty, it's really not too difficult. But I love how the game, like, intersperses these short boss fights in between, like, the longer levels. It's a good balance. And this is also a really unique level. It's very cool. It's just vertical all the way. So what I want to do is actually use my falcon here. And what you do is you press the B button, and it'll come out off your shoulder, and then start just targeting enemies. It'll just dive bomb enemies. And it's very powerful, actually. Now, the downside to it is it won't target it won't target everything. Like, these turrets that are on the walls, or on these buildings, it actually won't target them, so I'm just using my regular shot for those guys. However, it will target these flying guys and just annihilate them almost right away. So this level, you really have to watch out for little platforms, because it's a long trip to the top. And you don't want to be falling all the way back down to the bottom. Now there is a hidden weapon here on this level, and we should be close to it. It's basically this really powerful green laser, and it'll just annihilate some bosses. I'm gonna take my time here so I can make sure I reveal it and get it, and I don't forget it. But I want to kill these enemies too. I still haven't revealed it. Yeah, I think we're gonna actually end up having to go back down towards the bottom, because we're towards the top of this building right now. I'm gonna go ahead and just kill these other two, and then save the last one for later. Now we're gonna go ahead and just fall all the way back down. Because I definitely want this laser if I can. As far as I'm aware, shooting out the windows in the building doesn't really do anything. There it is. Alright, let's go fly up and get it. So right here. Extremely powerful weapon. It's very cool. These little platforms here you can land on. Now they fall down really fast. They can't contain your weight. But you just have to land on them for a split second, and then your temperature drops. Alright, flying all the way back up to the top. And that's it. Level done. Now you can try to kill the rest of these guys to get some points. If you're really struggling with this game, it is important to kill enemies, because you get an extra life or an extra continue after every 100,000 points. So we've already earned ourselves 4 continues. Also, when you beat this game, you end up getting like millions and millions of points. Not that it'll matter at that point, you won't need continues. But alright, this is our boss. We just have to destroy this weak spot in the middle. It'll actually fling this pink ball at you. It'll just start to rotate it around as you do damage to the core. So we just want to take time here. If you had the green laser fully charged up, you can actually do about half of this thing's health bar with one shot. It's really cool, but it drains your entire power meter, so that's the risk. But very easy boss with just your regular, you know, pea shooter. Alright, and this is our second to last main level in the game. So a couple of really important gimmicks in this level. So I'm going to go ahead and use my little homing falcon for much of this. But also you want to pick this up. This is our last weapon. It's a fire-based weapon. And what it ends up doing is cutting through projectiles, and it just does good damage too. Now you'll notice that there are these spot lamps here. You would think that's just for decoration, but it's actually not. If we walk in front of it, we trigger security. And security starts coming after us infinitely. And they do a lot of damage, and really the only way to get rid of them consistently is by using your homing falcon. See? Just triggering them intentionally. So the idea is to try to get through this level without hitting the spot lamps. Otherwise the level will be a lot more difficult on yourself. Spot lamps will not go through hard objects, which is very handy. And those core objectives, those guys on rails that shoot those big yellow projectiles, they actually do a lot of damage. You have to be really careful around them. And again, our courier EX type is up in the sky, shooting down and trying to help us out. But ideally, we just take our time here. Use our homing falcon. Also, there's some energy right here. Now, the little energy pickups on the playfields themselves that aren't big power conversion stations, they're just mini versions of those. They still drain your power to give you life energy. So you do have to watch out for that. I used to think they're just full, you know, life refills, but that's not actually what they are. They convert your power to health. But this is one of those levels where your power just builds up slowly on its own. So ideally you want to try to conserve how you use your power. And definitely don't run into those spot lamps if you don't have any weapon energy, because then you're not going to have any way to deal with the security system. Also, you'll notice that there are these like little sort of monitor looking things on the tracks. If you destroy them, you actually break up the track. So, interesting mechanic. Again, lots of little small details in this game. They're very interesting. Alright, I need 3 more of those things. Now, we're actually getting close to another health recharge. So I just want to make sure I play it relatively safe here, if I want to grab that. Alright, and more spot lamps here. Now this spot lamp will actually, it'll clip the right-hand side so I can actually clear it. Same with this one. I actually just figured that out on my last playthrough of this game. Like I said, a lot of little details in this you are not going to figure out the first time you play it. And so ideally what I want to do here is try to conserve my energy now, or let the energy charge back up. And so we'll just go ahead and let this sit here. It's very slow to recharge. So if I want some like really good health conversion, then I need to just sit here. Now, I don't think docking your courier up here will actually do anything in terms of regenerating my energy. Now, if anyone knows that there's a faster way to regen energy on this level, or power, definitely let me know. But yeah, it's recharging very, very slowly. Unfortunately, there aren't really any enemies nearby that I can attack to try to build my power faster. You can see these little doors here. That sort of gives you perspective on how big your mech is versus everything else. And I think that's probably good enough. Let's go ahead and grab that. Yeah, that's most of my health back. That's fine. Now we're going to have to wait here for this spot lamp. We don't want to touch it because we don't really have any weapon energy to deal with the guys that come out. There we go, and just like that. Same with this one up here. This level's all about taking your time. And I'm not going to bother with the guys down below, because I don't want to waste my weapon energy. Ooh, I triggered it. Did not want to trigger it. That was my fault. You'll notice that these sit here solid for a little while. I wonder if they actually reset themselves. Let's see. Yep, they do. Awesome. So this platform right here actually blocks the spot lamp. Blocks the detection. And if we wanted to convert more health into energy, we can do that right here. I'm gonna go ahead and... screw it, I'm gonna go ahead and grab it. Why not? I think we'll be fine. And again, a way to get some weapon energy back is actually to destroy enemies without using a sub-weapon. So that is actually one way I look at that swarm of ships up there. Is I look at it as weapon power, basically. I can kill all of them and get some decent weapon energy back to deal with these last two guys. Got it. That's it. Yeah, that's actually a really tough level in the first time you play it, but once you figure out the gimmicks, it's actually not that bad. And we have another boss fight right here. What I like to do is actually dock this and switch over to my laser. And then just fly straight to the boss. It's got this wind mechanic here where a lot of your projectiles don't go straight towards it. So using the laser accurately will actually allow you to get past its first phase relatively quickly. Alright, charge up. That was a quarter of its health bar right away. Did you see my projectiles just going everywhere? Right, let's bring my ship back. Let's go ahead and switch weapons. Now the wind effect is gone, so I can actually just hit it straight on. Just dodge its projectiles. Not too complicated. Pretty basic stuff here. Again, I really like the different gameplay dynamics. Like that previous level I had to take relatively slow. But this boss, it's just straight up attacking, and it's very simple, and it's really cool. And this is our final stage, guys. So what I like to do is actually bring my EX forward, because these guys with shields will actually knock the shields off of them. Just like that. And what's fun about this level is it's really hard the first time you play it, but once you figure out a rhythm, you can get really aggressive with it. Alright, let's try to dock our EX, so we can take advantage of its homing projectiles. Now, I can always just remain in the EX and just run into these enemies on my own. But the thing is, it's got its own health bar when you're docked inside of it, so ideally I'd rather just have it hit enemies when I'm not in it. And by doing that, it doesn't lose any health. And I can use it as a backup later on if, say, my health bar gets low. Alright, a couple different ways you can actually do this. You can actually just fly your way through, or you can just ride the EX and try to just sort of squeeze your way through like that. Very interesting. This EX thing just adds such a fun dynamic to what would otherwise be a more simplistic or maybe not as interesting, you know, action platformer. So it gives you a little more flexibility on how you deal with situations. And with a 6-button controller, you can control it independently of Ranger X. And by doing that, like this is like a multi-floored area. You know, I can have it attacking enemies on the bottom for me, which I'm doing. I'm manually controlling it with the X and Z buttons. Just like that. Ranger X is up here in safety for the most part. It's so cool. You know, honestly, I would have liked to have seen more action platformers from this time period with sort of gimmicks like this. Also, speaking of gimmick, this is actually a fan. It blows you upwards. I like to be in the EX ship and use its homing projectile here to get rid of this this beam. And let me go ahead and get out of it. And I'm going to push it forward. Now the core objective in this level is these things right here. They're actually really dangerous, but with the fire weapon combined with using your EX and just using your regular shot at the same time, they're actually pretty easy to deal with. Again, this fire weapon here it's actually very good. It overrides projectiles. And so whereas those guys can be really aggressive, your fire weapon is overriding their projectiles. We're gonna go ahead and just take our time here. Use our homing projectile to get rid of everything up top. Alright, this part's a little tricky. So there's actually a fan on the other side of that beam. What I want to do is come up here and destroy this and then go underneath the fan. Otherwise the fan will blow me into the beam on the left of me. So there we go. And that wasn't too bad. Thankfully, whoa there. What happened there? That was weird. Oh, that's right. There's a guy in the background now shooting at us, but there's an energy refill right here, which is great. Let's go ahead and bring our EX over. Now I can control the EX this way to destroy that barrier, and I can save that weapon energy. Alright, so this is a little tricky. There's this glowing pod up top. When you destroy it, it actually shoots these homing projectiles at you. Now some of them I don't really know how to avoid just yet, so I'm just kind of, yeah, moving away. It looks like they time out. So also, these laser barriers will actually block them. So this is a very methodical part. So destroy this one. Homing projectiles get eaten up just like that. And let's do that. Ooh, that's not good. Alright, I'm going to destroy this from a distance. Just like that. And let's just keep flying this way. I'm gonna go ahead and grab this weapon conversion. And destroy that one. Destroy this one on top. But you gotta deal with these projectiles in the back, which is very tough to deal with at the same time. There's a lot of micromanagement. Go ahead and push our EX forward into these shield guys. Also, these walls in the background will actually block the projectiles from the guy in the background, which is pretty cool. Nice little design choice. Also, one thing, I don't know if you noticed, but if you get behind these, the lights dim. Also another really cool mechanic. Just a lot of really great, like, graphical touches in this game. You know, it's stuff that's not really necessary, but it helps. You know, it helps with the immersion. Yeah, so I think we've actually earned ourselves 8 continues. We've done so well. We haven't died yet. And I think there is another energy conversion coming up here shortly. So just like earlier, I can actually just ride my EX if I wanted to. What I did in the first few playthroughs before learning this is basically just flying straight through. I'm gonna go ahead and grab this because I don't trust myself, but I have to destroy that other turret right there. And the last one, it says you have one left. It's actually the boss fight. Also, it's noteworthy that you want to switch to whatever weapon you prefer for the final boss before you come into this arena. The reason for that is you no longer have access to your EX. Or I should say not the final boss, but this boss right here. You can't switch your weapons anymore once you're in here because the EX will not follow you in. On the final boss itself, on the first part, you don't have access to switching weapons. But on the actual final boss itself, you do have your EX. Sometimes this this weak spot, this glowing weak spot there, will actually stop coming out And in order to re-trigger it, you have to come back in here, turn the lights out, basically, and it'll start coming back out. Kind of interesting, but it hasn't actually done that in this playthrough. Alright, and so there's a falling section coming up here. It's the start of the final level, or the final boss, I should say. You don't actually have to destroy this thing, you just have to make it to the bottom. So what I'm going to do is just conserve my energy. Yep, just like that. This thing hits the ground. We've been chasing this thing for the whole playthrough, too. And that's the guy that's gonna man the final boss. So again, the reason we want to use this fire weapon is, again, it eradicates projectiles, but it also does some pretty good damage, too. So it's just like a win-win. We're gonna just destroy a lot of these projectiles. Also, these little boxes fly out here. They're pretty dangerous. They actually suck your health away, and your health will get sucked into the boss itself, I believe, and it'll regain some health back. So when you see those boxes appear, you want to get rid of them right away. Phase number 2, there's this little reflective shield. You want to reflect his projectiles right back at him. It's kind of interesting. So you want to reflect them back into his face. And if they pass the shield, then you want to go ahead and just use your fire weapon here to just get rid of them. It's actually a pretty easy final boss once you figure out what to do. There we go. Alright, phase 3. Basically shoots out these little bunches of tiny, tiny little, probably insect-like projectiles. Have no idea what they are. They're little sparkly things. And that's it. And we, ladies and gentlemen, probably just gentlemen, beat Ranger X. So I basically went from barely having ever played the game before to finishing it like 7 or 8, maybe even 9 times in the last 3 days. So, really glad I fired this one up, because I think it's an excellent game. I've always heard good things about it, but I always was just hesitant to try to put time into it. It's just one of those games I probably should have actually played seriously back in the day, kind of like Thunder Force 4, or Lightning Force. Where had I played this back then, I would have enjoyed it probably just as much as something like Lightning Force or Thunder Force 4. So, really fantastic game. Fun little ending too. You get some more, yeah, you get some more vector-style polygonal visuals, which is awesome. It's very rare to see something like that on the Genesis, especially, you know, running at more than 1 or 2 frames a second. But yeah, man, really awesome game. I'm gonna have to try to revisit this with the higher difficulties, just on my own time, just to see how it is, see how it compares to the normal difficulty. But yeah, again, if anyone has played this and has tried the higher difficulties, let me know what you think of it on those. And if you've played this game before, and just in general, let me know your thoughts on it as well, if you made it to this point in the video. So, I know over the years I've gotten comments, and I've gotten particularly chat messages in live streams when I do Sega Genesis streams. A lot of times Ranger X is mentioned, but I put it off, and I put it off, and put it off. But I'm really glad that I finally dove into it, because it's an awesome game. Highly recommended if you guys have not played it before. But that is going to do it for me, guys. That is Ranger X. I hope you guys enjoyed this playthrough. If you're new to the game, hopefully these tips helped you out, or even if like you're an old player revisiting it and you just don't remember a lot of the details, hopefully the tips I talked about on this playthrough will help you end up getting through the game on your own. It's really satisfying once you learn the game and you just go through it without continuing. It's very satisfying, very fun. And it's not even that long, you know, that took us, I don't know, about 45 minutes to go through. Not too bad. So, but yeah, that's gonna do it for me, guys. If you're new to my channel, please consider subscribing. If you found the video useful, I'd really appreciate it if you shared it, in case you have a friend or something that is struggling with this game. For everyone already subbed, thanks for your continued support. Feel free to give the video a thumbs up. Apparently that helps, you know, the interaction and getting these videos out to more people. But yeah, that's it, guys. Thanks for watching. I guess until the next one, take it easy.